Kendall Rogers is the managing editor of D1Baseball.com, also D1Softball.com, and joins us on halftime to get into the second-ranked Razorbacks, who play the Florida Gators later this evening in the second of the series, and we'll take a look around the SEC as well. Kendall, appreciate your time. Always love you coming on halftime. How are you? Well, good. We've got a team right now that's got some of the best pitching in the SEC in the country right now. Actually, I think when you look at the starting pitchers, Arkansas wins 8-1 yesterday, and I saw Mike Rooney write on D1 Baseball the other day, because he was at the Mississippi State series, about how Connor Nolan doesn't necessarily have like the Friday night stuff that you see from like a guy like Hunter Barco from last night. But, man, he's got everything else you need from a Friday night pitcher, and pretty deep repertoire, which I think is one reason he's become the pitcher that he looks like this year.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think the biggest thing for him is, and I would actually not necessarily disagree with Runes on this, but I would actually argue that the breaking ball for him has kind of become the big-time pitch. I think if you look at Connor in the past, he's obviously been a guy who's been able to throw 3 or 4 pitches, but he's never really had that, like, out pitch that you just feel like is a swing and miss kind of dominating offering. And so, I think that breaking ball has been really, really good for him. And what that's done is that's allowed teams not to sit on the fastball or the changeup, because, he might throw that all of a sudden that big breaking curveball in there. So for me, I think that's been the big key for him this year. Obviously commanding his own, but just having a pitch that flashes plus at times has been a big game changer for him.
So many folks were worried about how do you replace, what you got out of Kevin Kopps last year. What they've ended up doing, Kendall, is they've replaced it with starting pitchers that give you innings. It doesn't have to be one player that replaces what you lost from somebody previously. We learned that lesson from watching how Billy Beane put together the Athletics and through Moneyball and all of that. And how did you paper over the loss of your top pitcher last year? You get 3 starters that are stepping into these roles and just running with them right now.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think when you look at Hagen Smith, he's obviously a guy that the weekend I saw him at Round Rock, he wasn't great, but he's gotten better and better each time out. I think Jaxon Wiggins, for me, I think coming in the season, even with Peyton Pallette, I thought Jaxon was kind of an X factor. He's always had premium stuff. He just kind of needs to hone it all in. And I think so far this year, he's done that. Really, that going back to that Round Rock weekend, he was kind of the bright spots of the weekend, the fact that he finished that weekend with such a good start against Louisiana. So, when you got a guy that, throws 94, 98, and he can throw strikes, that is a game changer for a weekend rotation. So I think the biggest thing for me when I look at Arkansas is just the job that Matt Hobbs has done with that staff. I mean, this is a staff that was a question mark coming in the season. They've answered a lot of the questions. Brady Tygart has kind of come out of nowhere and become a frontline reliever for this team. And so all systems are good. The thing that's really scary to me about Arkansas, and I thought Dave Van Horn kind of funny, he's kind of poking the bear at Tennessee a little bit, but in that Swatters Club video, I thought he made a good point that, like, hey, we might be number 2 in the country, but we've got a long way to go to play our best baseball, and I would agree, because I think when you look at the team overall, Bob Moore isn't going to finish the season at 265 or whatever he's at now. Brady Slavens is going to get hot. Peyton Stovall is going to get hot, and the list kind of goes on.
Yeah, and you took the conversation in the direction I wanted to go about Matt Hobbs. He even got some criticism from fans last year because it felt like it was a one-pitcher pitching staff at times. But it's like, all right, but he also helped create Kevin Kopps into the most unique pitcher in college baseball history. And I love Matt's attitude and his demeanor. You've talked to him enough times. Like, he is the most calm, collected, cerebral person and can get down on a base level with whoever it is he's talking to and coaching. And he's remade this pitching staff into the main strength of this team. That's not easy to do.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I think when you look at Matt, and his resume speaks for itself. I mean, you look back at, what he was able to do at Wake Forest, and, he developed the pitching lab there. He obviously cranked out some big-time arms at Wake at a place that, doesn't naturally just get the best prospects in the country. He was able to, really kind of develop guys there. So, I think he's kind of carried that to Arkansas. And you're right. I mean, there were times last year where it felt like it was just basically the Kevin Kopps show. But I think, even if that was your take after last year, I think he has certainly redeemed himself and with the staff he's put together this year. I think a lot of people, when they lost Peyton, considering how good he can be, I think a lot of people probably looked at the team and went, "Oh boy, we might be in trouble on the mound." But all of a sudden, Connor Nolan's taking a massive step. Hagen getting mature each week, and Jaxon, Wiggins, and some others have stepped up. So that's all the hallmarks of kind of what Matt Hobbs' pitching staffs are all about.
Kendall, you talked just a second briefly, about Dave Van Horn's comments on Tennessee. And Tennessee is absolutely on fire right now. I mean, what they did to Vandy a weekend ago was incredible. The statistics that they are putting it up. Can they keep it up? I mean, is this a team that could be a clear-cut favorite to be last standing in Omaha?
Well, I would argue this. I think they can keep it up, but I would argue that that's not necessarily what you want to do if you're Tony Vitello. I mean, not to take a trip down memory lane, but I mean, if you look back at, Arkansas last year, this is a team that did not lose an SEC weekend series. They absolutely dominated that conference. And, what happened in the year? They kind of just ran out of gas a little bit. NC State got red hot, and they didn't get to Omaha. So I think if you're Tony, I mean, you'd almost prefer to have a weekend to just, I wouldn't say you want to get your teeth kicked in, but you want a weekend where you're kind of having to scratch and kind of claw your way to wins. And I think so far, I mean, Tennessee has dominated everybody. I mean, if you look back at that Vandy series last week, I watched every single inning of that series, and I didn't feel like Vanderbilt really threatened them at all. And to go on the road and do that was pretty impressive. But there's no doubt, I mean, this is a really, really good team when you look at the weekend rotation with Chase Burns. You look at, the lineup. Trey Lipscomb's taken a big step forward. Drew Gilbert's been fantastic. He's kind of developed himself into a top 2-round prospect. And so this is as balanced and deep as a team as I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. What's going on with the bat stickers around the SEC? Do we need to put some extra glue on them or what? What's going on with the bat stickers?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it happened, with Auburn and A&M. It's happened with Tennessee. I think the biggest thing from the NCAA standpoint is I feel like there's always questions when these things happen, and naturally so, right? But I just feel like the NCAA, the rules surrounding this just aren't very clear. I mean, here's my thing. If you're going to say as a opposing coach that, hey, I think this guy's using a hot bat, I think this guy's using a legal bat, then, I mean, shouldn't a guy get more of a penalty than just being out? Should he be suspended for a game? And so I just think if you're the NCAA, you need to kind of clarify what some of these rules are, because I think with these two situations as of late, this is why we're talking about it, people are very confused as to, what are the procedures, what are the penalties, and things like that. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think these teams that, magically have stickers fall off, I have a feeling the stickers are going to somehow stay on the rest of the year.
Kendall, what's happened at LSU? They're under 500 in the league right now. I know they took 2 out of 3 from Florida. Is their pitching been struggling a bit? I know that they've got a great lineup, but the pitching hasn't necessarily been up to speed.
Well, the problem you have in college baseball is, it's one thing. If you have a good offense, that's great and all. But the problem is, in college baseball, if you don't pitch and you don't play defense, that's like a double whammy. That is the death knell. And I think when you look at LSU, I want to say they're ranked 265th or 270th in the country in defense right now. The last time I looked, they were fielding 945 as a team, which anybody that knows baseball knows that's absolutely awful. And so, you can have a great game on the mound, and when your defense is that bad, it's just going to hurt your pitching. So those are the two things for LSU. When they put all the pieces together, which against Florida the last 2 games and Gainesville when they won that series, they played great defense, and what happened? They won, 14-2 and 10-3 or something like that. When they put all the pieces together, they're really, really good. The problem is, they do that about, 2 games every, 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, and that's who Arkansas gets next week. And the things that LSU is not doing well is what Arkansas does extremely well, which is field and pitch.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing about LSU and Arkansas is, LSU is going to play well against them. I mean, they always do.
Well, I talk about this sometimes with the coaches, and at least the Arkansas coaches, I think they want the season to be pushed back a month. Major League Baseball moved the draft back a month, a little more than a month, I think. They've cut the number of professional players. It's not like, I know, if you push the college season back, then it does something to summer wooden bat leagues, but the college baseball doesn't have any something to behold to the summer window.
Yeah.
When is college baseball going to push the calendar back a month, because it would make so much sense to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing right now is that, the Big Ten, they put Derek Baggage in Michigan put together that new season proposal, and I actually really like it. The problem is that he's not going to put it forth to the NCAA unless every single power conference signs off on it. I think we're a ways away from the SEC, for instance. After the Big Ten kind of derailed the third assistant legislation, I think the SEC is probably a ways away from going, hey, we're going to help you guys out, and we're going to sign up for this. I think it's going to take a school like Arkansas with a lot of cachet, obviously, in the industry, to actually come out and say, hey, you know what, we actually really support this, and we want the rest of the SEC to do it too.
Interesting. But the way that you put it there, Kendall, it seems to me like college baseball is the most difficult sport to get stuff like this done, just because there's such a differential between the haves and the have-nots, even in the Power 5 conferences. It's just you can't get the Big Ten and the SEC to agree on really anything. But why should college baseball be beholden to the Big Ten, which that it's not the same level. They don't quite have the same ballparks, or
and they can't even play in those ballparks for a month. I mean,
right, and they can't even play in those parks for the first month of the season.
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, that's kind of been the way college baseball has been for about the past decade. It's been a kind of a power struggle, and I get it from both perspectives. On one, these teams are on the road for the first month and a half of the season. On the other, if you're the SEC, it's like, hey, we've changed the RPI to help you. If you remember back in the day, some teams would start January 20th and others would start, February 15th. So the SEC and the other conferences are like, okay, we've done that for you. Like, what else do you want us to do? And so I think, for me, I think a sweet spot would be probably the second weekend of March. And what I really like to see is, start the second weekend of March and actually have the championship series take place July 4th weekend in Omaha. I think that would just be a really cool culmination of the season.
This makes too much sense for it to actually happen, Kendall, but I certainly hope that that's what happens. It makes way too much sense. Hey, man, we'll let you go. Always appreciate you joining us here in halftime.
You got it, brother. Good talking to you.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs, sports info, and odds. Find all the latest sports developments, including this week's odds for the Masters Championship and the start of Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so join today. Learn why everyone is saying BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on popular sports and games. BetOnline, where the game starts.